very good evening to you and welcome to the desk here on Global Television. We call this our Gist Parlor, a place where we have all the conversation about everything and anything. But this evening we'll be talking about female genital mutilation. What is it all about? Bearing these details in mind, that Nigeria, due to its large population, has the highest absolute number of female genital mutilation worldwide, accounting for about 1/4 of the estimated 115 to 130 million circumcised women in the world. Well, the objective of today's conversation is not to ridicule Nigeria in any way, but to help us be able to chart a new course for our conversation. And joining me this evening to talk about this very elaborate conversation right now on this table is a professional in this field, and she has a very high repute in this field. Let me allow her to introduce herself at this point in time. So tell us about yourself first, because it's Valentine's Day and it's season of love.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
My name is Lois Tofumi Amele. I'm the executive director and founder of Good Tides Philippine Missions Foundation, and I'm a member of the global media campaign to end female genital mutilation. So basically, since I'm in Nigeria, so we end female genital mutilation here in Nigeria. And it's Valentine's Day. I'm excited. Are you excited? Did you get anybody a gift?
Well, Lois, I didn't get gift anywhere. I think Valentine is for the females.
Really?
So you can tell me I'm biased at this point in time.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Because I think that it's supposed to be both ways. You get for me and I get for you, you know. So
in Nigeria or outside Nigeria?
I think we just bought into the custom of the people, let me call them in the abroad, you know, and that's the reason why a lot of people just expect it one way,
okay,
you know, to flow one way instead of it flowing both ways. That means you give me something and I also get something.
But the larger percentage has been one way.
Yeah, it has been one way, and that's what we're trying to change.
And the one way has not been fair to men.
That's what we're
all right. let's not go that route. Yes. All right. So let's talk about female genital mutilation.
Yeah.
These all razzmatazz. Nigerian is ranking one of the highest of the 115 million to 130 million women that have been circumcised. But first, let's educate our viewers. What is female genital mutilation?
Okay, so female genital mutilation, for people, some people would say it is circumcision, but we don't like to call it female circumcision because it's a gruesome violation of a girl's right. Let me say girl's right, you know, so we don't call it circumcision, we call it mutilation. So female genital mutilation is the total or partial cause of a female's external genitalia. That's just what it means, basically. Looking at the statistics, we used to have 200 million women in over 29 countries living with the consequences, over 29 30 countries living with the consequences of female genital mutilation. And it's a serious issue because 10% of that 200 million is 20 million. So 20 million, you know, women are living with the consequences of female genital mutilation in Nigeria. Looking at the statistics, that is above the total number of people that voted in the Kenyan election last year. That is more than the total population of people in Somalia. So it's a huge number of, you know, survivors of female genital mutilation here in Nigeria.
All right. There is a narrative on the female genital mutilation or circumcision, if you like to borrow that word. Although you say mutilation.
Yes.
All right. There's this narrative that when girls are mutilated, it helps them condole their sexual urge. How correct is this narrative?
Okay, so one of the things we did during the International Day for Zero Genital Mutilation was on the 6th of February, and I know that you're doing this in commemoration of that day. We tried to debunk myths around female genital mutilation. I think that's what I did, you know, while I was doing my media rounds. That's the perception that people have in different communities. So some other communities will say if the head of the baby touches the clitoris, the baby will die. People just have their serious myths around it, but there's nothing like that. Okay, so let's look at a case that was reported to me. I think this case happened in Maraba, Nasarawa State, we know Maraba. The lady was married, and because her clitoris was cut, she was unable to, you know, she was unable to go into sexual relationship with her husband, and afterwards she now had to start, you know, not as if she was even able to, because of the fact that she was not getting satisfaction from him, she started going outside to do it. So she was not getting satisfaction.
The quest for satisfaction?
Yeah, so she now became a sex worker.
Okay.
So can we say female genital mutilation has stopped, stopped the promiscuity?
No.
We can't say that. We would even say that it even caused more harm to her than, what's supposed
But she's just 1 in a million.
Yeah, but we're saying that female genital mutilation has no health benefit. For the males, we see that it helps to reduce penile cancer. It does a lot to help the males, but there's nothing that it does particularly for the females. So that's the reason why we're saying that, it's a harmful traditional practice and it should not be done here.
All right. So, speaking of traditional practice, historically, we have it on good records that most of our African ancestries have this practice where they do circumcision in order to induct these girls into womanhood.
Yeah.
So, but we are taking them to farting room or what you call them.
Yeah.
But this is a way of inducting women from girls into womanhood to a very large. That's the cultural aspect, and it was practiced for more than 100 years. What changed, and why the campaign against female genital mutilation?
So, like I said before, I'll still repeat myself again. Female genital mutilation has no health benefit. So there are different beliefs.
So there are no religious, if no health benefit, no religious, also spiritual benefit. Okay, please go ahead.
That's where I'm going to.
Oh, please
so
go.
there are different, there's psychosocial, there's religious, there is cultural. And what you're saying now is cultural, where they want the woman to ascend into womanhood, and all of that. And they do all of that ceremony, to bring her into womanhood. But I would say that since it doesn't have health benefits, it's not supposed to be done. And I think that's the reason why we're here to debunk this myth. For religious reasons, some people said that because, Moses said that they should circumcise in the Moses law, one thing. And I feel that Moses was actually referring to the male when he was talking about this particular circumcision. And not only referring to the male, he was talking about circumcision, like coming into the body of Christ, like just something like baptism. That's what he was trying to refer to. But people just look at it and they're like, oh, since we're circumcising the male, let's also circumcise the female. And some people said that the penile shaft of a female would grow and become, the penile shaft of a male. The clitoris of a female, that's the external genitalia of a female, will grow and become the penile shaft of a male. That's some other belief behind it. But we've actually not seen that happen. So even in Nasarawa state here, they believe that once the head of the baby touches the clitoris, then the baby dies. But we have lots of women with clitoris that have given birth and the baby has not died. There are other root causes behind it. So all of these things, most of them are myths. Okay, so I met somebody a while ago, and we just met. We sat at the same seat and we're just gisting. And she said, oh, what do you do? And I say, I campaign to end female genital mutilation. She was like, is that even a thing? What is female genital? And I told her circumcision. She said, oh, she was also caught. That was I not caught? And I was like, no. She said, oh, I thought everybody was caught. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not. She now said, oh, why were you not caught? And why are you campaigning against it? Because my father was a pastor. In fact, he was a reverend, and he insisted that we should all be caught and all of that. And in fact, we didn't even know when it happened. And then I started narrating to her that, oh, this is what female genital mutilation is. This is what it can do to you. And she sat and I was telling her, the immediate consequence of female genital mutilation, the long-term consequence of female genital mutilation. When she looked at it and she was like, oh my God. So that is the reason why I've been having this series of miscarriages. The reason why I've not had sexual urges. And she was, shocked because she didn't know that was what was happening, and she felt there was a religious reason, and she was just taking all of that in. But series of health conditions have ruled after. So all of these are just myths. Female genital mutilation is something that should end here in Nigeria. Yeah.
All right, Lois.
Yeah.
To a very large extent, this campaign has got into rural communities, and to the same exact extent, we've seen mutilation not reducing even in the country. It keeps rising. Using the last 2023-2024 figures that we have on girls that were mutilated, especially within rural community, tell us, is it that the fight is not getting to the rural community effectively, or there's something that we are missing along the line in order to get our young girls not mutilated?
Okay, so the thing is, any issue that is a cultural issue is actually a huge matter, because it goes down to the mindset of people, and it's something that their forefathers have been doing, and they've transferred it to them, and they have been doing it for a while and all of that. So breaking and debunking this myth is one of the hardest things I think that we are battling with, and that's why we are creating this awareness. When we go into communities, in fact, I worked one time with the first lady, the former first lady of Ekiti State, because we used to have, in fact, Ekiti State at some point used to be the second highest case of female genital mutilation. Osun was first, at the time. And I went to Ekiti State. I have a book titled Tolani Nirara. It's also converted into Braille, where I go to communities and distribute. And I worked with her at that point. When I went into the community, what they were saying to me was like, why was I not caught? And all of that. So these things, I feel that a lot of them in those communities do not even know that it is wrong. So when we now take this awareness to them, they now understand that, so this particular thing is wrong. So we are not supposed to do this, we're not supposed to do that. And one thing that I did was not to sensitize just the women in the community. I sensitized both the children. In fact, the book was supposed to be is for the children. It's a comic book. So it's actually for the children. And it's supposed to tell them that, it's supposed to make them understand that I should be brave to say no to female genital mutilation, because we have communities where they allow these girls to be old to be grown till maybe 15, 16, and they bring them together like a ritual, and then they now do a group court, and all of that.
A peer group thing,
so we've had a scenario where a girl said she was not going to be caught, and she ran away and she was not caught. So we're looking at scenarios where we can have more girls that will say, no, I don't want to do this. In my book Tolani Nirara, I talked about a girl, that said, no, I'm also going to do this. She was stereotyped, because of the fact that everybody is doing it in the community, and it's a norm, in that community. But she said no, she faced lots of things, but at the end of the day, she was not caught, and it was very good for her, because at the end of the day, all of those consequences, the immediate consequences and the long-term consequences, was not something that she was able to understand, because it didn't happen to her. I've been talking about the immediate and the long-term consequences. There's something we call medicalization of FGM, and that's what FGM has evolved into. So the medicalization of FGM is when doctors and nurses are actually doing this, to girls. And for people that do medicalization, because I was talking on radio somewhere, and while I was talking, somebody called in and said, since they should not do it, it causes HIV, and because of the instruments and all of that, then maybe there's something else we should do about it. We should call doctors and nurses, since they have sterile tools and all of that. So what you have done is you have reduced the immediate consequence of female genital mutilation, but the long-term consequences are still there. And when I say reduce the immediate consequences, because for the traditional people, they probably do not sterilize their tools. They would not give you injections to reduce the pain and all of that. So when they do all of that for you, the long-term consequences would definitely be there. And one of it is painful menstruation. Another is difficulty in sexual relationship. That's probably after marriage or whenever you want to do it. Psychological effects, low self-esteem, PTSD, a whole lot of things.
Well, let's not even go into a whole lot of things, because I can see that you can go on and on.
Yes.
but then in Africa, can we say that we are winning the war against female genital mutilation?
Yes, I can say that we are winning the war, because we are not where we used to be, because of
even with the rising figures from last year and the year before that.
We could say that is a general figure, not in some communities where proper awareness has been taken.
Nigeria is still taking the lead.
Yes, I know.
Africa is still at the forefront.
I know. Yes, I know. So
I'm asking, I think it feels as if the more the orientations, the more the cognitive education, and the more the increase in numerical number of people that want to be mutilated. I stand to be corrected.
Yes, that's exactly just what I want to do. Now, I know that the numbers are increasing, because the last time I looked at the UNFPA website, I saw 200 million in over 29 countries. And the last time I went there, I saw it, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, I saw, 230, but in 29 countries. So looking at the number, I think for Nigeria, we are not where we used to be, because of the awareness that have been going on. We can say maybe some other communities, are having some of these things, but in communities where awareness, just like Ekiti State now, you cannot say we are where we used to be, because I campaign in Ekiti, Nasarawa, FCT, and in other places, but I know that in Ekiti State, where have been campaigning, it has reduced. So I know that there are states that, because of awareness creation, because in Osun State, there was a woman that came and said, she didn't know that this was what was happening. For her, it has stopped. In Ekiti State, there was a gathering of women well, from different areas where they used to be circumcisers and they've stopped. Okay, so the measures that have been taken have been working. It's just that there are still some people that are doing it behind closed doors. Yeah.
So, having said this,
Yeah.
where do we go from here as a people?
So I would say that, and I always say that the way we attacked COVID-19 when it came, the way we came together, we made COVID-19 the focal point. In fact, we had to keep people in for a long time. Can we do something like that again? Can we have something like that for FGM?
To declare instead of emergency,
Like something
instead of
like that.
emergency for
Especially in states where this thing is actually happening and it's causing a whole lot of things. So can we do that? Can we make FGM the focal point? Talk about it. Every organization, I think that's why 16 days of activism always talk about the Unite campaign. Whatever your goal is in your organization, can you bring FGM into the forefront and say, oh, can we talk about FGM once in a while? Just like what your TV station is doing today in commemoration of this International Day for Zero Tolerance. Can we, have other TV stations doing this? Can we have other radio stations also doing this? Not just looking at the day and say, oh, let it just pass without creating awareness about it. So I think when we do that, and also fund organizations that are trying to, create awareness. If not that that I've been doing this for a while, there's some other organizations that are in the grassroots that are doing this. A lot of them are underfunded. To even go to the communities, they have to trek. They have to do a lot of things to get to those communities. I remember when I used to be there, and it's actually a thing. So we're looking at a forum where people can come in and they can be helped. Yeah.
Louis, just before I let you go, or Lois, before I let you go, Lois, you seem passionate about this whole FGM procedures, the FGM campaign reorientation. I'm tempted to ask, even on this desk, what is your story?
Okay.
Is the passion born out of the fact that you are not happy that girls are going through this all, or what is the story, the brain behind your campaigns?
Okay. So actually, I've not been caught. I was not caught, but I met somebody. She gave birth to our children, the 4 of them, through CS. And that is a long-term complication of female genital mutilation. She told her story, and since then, I just united with the cause. And the fact that FGM was actually happening in my own state, because I'm from Ekiti State, that was when I was like, oh no, I'm certified by the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights. So I do a lot of things around sexual and gender-based violence, but look at it, I just looked at it that sexual and gender-based violence is something that some people intentionally do. But female genital mutilation is different. People don't have the right mindset behind it. And that's the reason why they do it, and they're still doing it. That's why sometimes when I meet advocates, I did a course on cross-culture and diversity, and I have an organization that teaches people. And I tell them as advocates, it's very, very important that you go into communities with the mindset that these people do not know what they are doing. Because a lot of communities, they don't know what they are doing. We now have those communications with them and we talk to them. That's when they're not like, oh, so this is actually a problem. But GBV and rape, and some of them are well informed about this and they know that it's actually wrong, but they still do it. But for FGM, we know the law. There's a law.
Yeah.
We have the Child Act, VAP Act, we have Mapito Protocol, and all of that. But there are still people that do not know about what it is and what it's causing. Here, even in Abuja, because the one I was talking about, we met here in Abuja. So our course is to create the awareness, make them understand that, oh, this particular thing is actually wrong. This is what it is doing, and have you found this? Has this happened to you? Has that happened to you? There was somebody that we're doing this awareness together. The person did not know that she was actually caught. It was when she was asking me, so how do I know I was caught? And I explained to her. She was like, oh, okay. So she went back and she checked, and that was how she knew that she was caught. There's a particular way your clitoris look. It is not when it is caught. So I don't know if that's okay to say it on TV, but you can go back and check properly as a woman. Once you know that you are caught, then seek therapy. Because a lot of people, once they know that they are caught, a lot of things happen. We know that FGM has led to divorce and a whole lot of things. Yeah.
Well, let me not overstretch this issue. I want to say thank you so much. You've been a very great deal for us, even on this desk this evening. I hope when next we need you, you'll be available for us.
Of course, of course.
All right, we'll be talking with Lois Amali. Hope I got that correctly.
Lois Ameli.
Ameli. With Ameli. Oh, I got that. All right. We'll be talking to Lois Ameli, and we'll go for this short break. When we come back, conversation continues on this desk. Please go nowhere as the desk continues in a moment. Welcome back. At this point in time, we will be talking with a person of Shuaib Judith. I will be talking a lot of on this table, and don't forget that she is the chief operating officer of African Cultural Fashion, and also founder of Formidable Female. But first, let me welcome you to the desk.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
Are you looking all Valentine?
Thank you. If Valentine is pink, well, I agree.
Well, we won't know if it's pink. we will know for sure. We just pick a random color to be able to acclimatize ourselves with this celebration.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's even get into the conversation. Looking at the culture of Nigeria, the culture of Africa, culture tends to be a subject that has been relegated to the back door of inconsequential, even to our discourse in Africa. And somebody have said, in the next 5 years or couple of years, Nigerians and Africans will be losing their culture because there are no form of conservation or preservative means to ensure that we have cultural balance. But first, let me come to you. What are the challenges with our culture? Could it be that is the challenge that we have with culture that is making Nigerians and Africans by extension to shy away from their culture as not being practicable?
Well, first of all, the culture is definitely, thank you very much for the question. Nigerian culture is very much practicable. It is beautiful. African culture is unique everywhere in the world. However, what the challenge is, there are numerous challenges with why people shy away from culture. First of all is definitely civilization, what people call civilization, but it's essentially westernization, you know. There's a lot of Western influence on Nigerian culture and African culture. And so therefore you find out that a lot of people, and this is made even, this is influenced on a wider scale by virtue of social media, how accessible it is. So people, you find out that generations keep shifting, and then history and tradition and culture is not passed down as it should be. So you find out that generations are losing sight and touch of what culture, the essence of culture is, what the history is. And so therefore you find out that people just want to copy what they see. And then with the influence of the Western culture, you find out that people want to practice alternative culture than where they are from. So essentially, this is the foundation and the basic of what is influencing culture. But then you would also see situations whereby there's not enough policy. The government's policy is not stable in encouraging culture, in encouraging creatives, in encouraging, the essence of what tradition should be. So you find out that because of the inconsistency of these policies, it is somewhat being relegated more and more and more. So people see themselves as other people rather than who they are and where they are from. So there are many reasons we can go through as to what the challenges of culture is. And you can also dispute the fact that there are a lot of challenges with regards to ethnic, bigotry and things around that by virtue of either religious influence or, whatever the case may be. So along that axis as well, that's another challenge that you would find, because now that makes people distant from one another. It limits interaction, it limits intertribal interactions, intercultural interactions. So all those things combined together influence how people, accommodate culture or value culture.
Well, I asked that particular question as a build-up to the recent video that is trending, even the one on Unizik. I don't know if you saw the video recently. And prior to that time, we've seen a lot of diminishing culture in terms of respect, which the Africans have always held in high esteem. Right now, that culture is gradually diminishing. Could we attribute this to also westernization or to sheer ignorance of this up-and-coming younger version of Africans?
Well, it's a bit of both, really. It's a bit of both. It's rather unfortunate what we saw with, the incidents at Unizik. It is rather, a couple of years ago, down to at least 10, 15, 20 years ago, there is no way a girl child does that anywhere to an adult, not even to her age mate, So it is really a bit of both, is the fact that people are not very aware, everybody wants to claim civil, everybody wants to be new generation, everybody wants to be what they term modern, and so doing that really makes even parents who now raise the generation we're seeing called the Gen Z lose sight of the basics of what should have groomed people. So that is why you see that you have a generation of young people who have the audacity to think that they can talk to people or treat people in a certain way. But then some other times too, it is negligence. Some other times it is a loss of identity, it's identity crisis. You find out that a number of people, a good number of people, see themselves as, okay, maybe I'm so Western and I'm so civil at this point that you can't touch me. After all, don't you know countries where parents are not allowed to hit children, where this is that, or
but parents also support this in a large extent. We've seen parents that go to schools to even arrest the teachers for even trying to discipline their child.
Yes, absolutely. Even though we are also seeing a generation, to be fair and honest too, is borderline, you know. A bit of balance is necessary because you also see a generation where it's taking overboard. There's a lot of bullying going on. So sometimes that's why parents are that sensitive. But you would also find out that there are parents who are not just sensitive, it's really them losing sight and being very complacent with discipline, really. So you also find a bit of both, and it is sadly what is producing the results that we're seeing. But the bedrock of it and the origin of it is really rooted in cultural crisis, ethnicity crisis. People don't know what is expected of them, or they are ignoring it because now they are paying more attention to what they see either in the media space or so, and they just want to be that.
Is the government in a certain level also contributing to this form of cultural chaos that we are seeing right now?
Oh, absolutely. In many ways.
Okay.
In many ways. You know, first of all, when you check school curriculums to begin with, because that is one area that plays a vital role in passing down culture. Of course, there's a place of family, there's a place of education, then there's the part that religion plays. So on the aspect of family as the foundation of where culture should have been groomed, we have discussed briefly now some of the challenges.
Yeah.
Complacency and, the twisted narrative or acceptance of Western culture on that end. But yes, government plays a vital role. First of all, you see, like I highlighted before, there's inconsistent policies with regards to creating an environment for culture to thrive, for tradition to thrive. You find out that culture is one of the most neglected aspects of the nation, especially in Nigeria. If you want to do an event as a creative, if you want to do an event within the cultural industry, it is one of the most challenging things to do. And I can tell you authoritatively because I've done multiple events over the last 9 years now. And so therefore, I know very well what the challenges are. People just think, culture, it's not as important. Let's diversify. Let's put funds in other things and then relegate this. Losing sight of the fact that these are the things that keep culture alive. If you take a visit to museums, if you take a visit to cultural centers, if you take a visit to art centers, to traditional institutions, you would find out that it is literally in utter chaos. It's somewhat even abandoned in most places. When you talk about it from local government level, state level, to even the federal level, you find out that those are places that are somewhat dysfunctional. Almost non-existent. So you find out that these are the roles that government plays. And then down to education, what is the curriculum really teaching? You know, there's emphasis on a lot of information, especially outside information, Western information, foreign influence information, much more than indigenous information that would actually groom young people to be able to know that this is where they're from, this is what this is, and this is the essence of who they are. So all of those factors together combine to cause the identity crisis.
But one would think that it is born out of the evolution of the general systems of the world. So the government needs to acclimatize itself with some of those evolution and as such flow with the tide to arrive at those conclusions. Don't you think so?
One thing you would never see a lot of countries do is ever change either their appearance, their look, or their intonation just to fit into anything. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
You would see a Scottish person, even a ruler, who would wear a skirt and that long socks, and they don't care. You know, you would see, but then God bless people like the Okonjo-Iwealas of these days. You know, these are people who would carry and embody their culture. When you talk about it and you look at it in entertainment context, the Yemi Alades of these days, these are some people who try to not lose sight of what the culture is. Evolution does not mean that you change your identity. It just means that you can accommodate what is necessary, but without losing sight or completely downplaying or eradicating the essence of your existence of who you are. That, I think, is where the government gets it amiss.
All right, so let's come back to culture and morality as it stands right now. Somebody said that if there are no culture, automatically morality will die a natural death. But you are the professional in this field. I can't say that authoritatively even on air. But you're not into it. How correct is this assertion?
Well, to an extent. So first of all, there are a lot of factors that come together and play a role in essentially facilitating, what values would be like and morality would be like. There are a lot of contributing factors. But then you can't downplay the part of culture. It takes a huge role. That is essentially what builds up your identity in the first place, as I've been emphasizing to begin with. So yes, there is values, there are things along the lines of character, there's interaction with other people. All these things play a role. But at the end of the day, the bedrock of how, or the vehicle that conveys how these interactions, how morality should really be born, is guided by culture. It is not the only determining factor, but it plays a key role.
Well, permit me to call you Dr. Judith. Even on this table, it's not official. But then, again, a lot of young persons out there will say that the reason why they've not been identified with the African culture, even though wanting to dress in the African attire, is because the African culture, to a large extent, has been identified with a lot of diabolic practices in the sense of dark magic. In the light of all of this, that's what the African culture, as such, it is more convenient for them to delve into other cultures and other way of life. But do you share in this narrative?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. First of all, there isn't any culture that doesn't have diabolic practices, black magic and whatever. Even in Western cultures, foreign countries basically, okay? They each have dimensions of diabolism, black magic and everything else in between. So at the end of the day, is really what you decide to opt for. And that is the whole essence of, it's about the values, it's about the essence of it, it's about the guiding factor of it, it's about the beauty of it, it's about the spirit of it, not necessarily what people spin practices into. Now that's a belief thing, that's a conviction thing, that's a person-to-person thing. So you will not say, I will not wear shedda, or I will not wear adire, just because that doesn't automatically initiate you into any spiritual dimension at all.
We can't say that authoritatively on this table. We see people that put on adire and they metamorphose into something else.
No, but
they say they're being possessed with spiritual.
It is not the fault of the adire. It is not the attire.
I will know. I will know. It's your field. I will know. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so it is the spiritual practice of the person, and that is a person-to-person thing. Religion plays a role there, belief play a role there. Is entirely spiritual, is entirely conviction and belief system. It has nothing to do with attire, with culture, the essence of it, the heart of it, the code of it, the conduct of it. It has nothing to do with it. Those are two different things. But it is true that there are traditional people who are diabolic. But this is common in every culture. It's practiced in every culture around the world. So it's a person-to-person based thing.
All right. Judith, as a parting gift on Valentine's Day, even on this table, Nigerians have chosen to be on red and white and celebrate Valentine. Should we say that the culture of this dress code have come to stay even within Nigeria?
I can't authoritatively decide that for Nigerians to begin with.
Of course, I know when you were coming in, you saw a lot of white and red everywhere. You said it's the color of love. I don't know what the color of love actually is. I thought red signifies danger. I never knew it was for love.
No, well, people try to associate it with the color of the heart. You know, the blood is red. You know, the heart is red. So
Okay.
people associate love with the heart.
Symbolic.
Yes, I understand the sentiment around that. However, whatever makes red and white official, I think is a preference thing. It's, again, a culture somewhat has been, developed around that. But it's not necessarily a Nigerian thing. It's not necessarily an African thing. I think it's just a preference thing. It's just a trend thing. It's just something people adopt because it makes them feel happy.
Does it make you feel happy?
Well, first of all, I do not intend to wear red today, but I do like red. And at some point, red was my favorite color.
Are you wearing a shade of red?
This is pink.
Whatever that means. Well, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll go for this short break, and when we come back, still talking about love and Valentine, we'll come back and talk more even on this table. Please go nowhere. As the desk continues in a moment. Welcome back. Business, they say, is the source of livelihood. And of course, which better time to talk about love and business than on the day of Valentine's. So when you're spending your money, you can also spend with a very large sense of reasoning, knowing fully well that there's a day after Valentine. And I have with me Emmanuel Akani, who will be talking business even with me on today being Valentine's Day. But first, let me welcome you to the desk on Global Television.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you, viewers.
All right. Emmanuel Akani, happy Valentine's Day. Let's start from there first.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I'm surprised you're not on white and red. I thought that was the color that signifies Valentine.
Oh, okay. Well, I do have that, but I'm pursuing a business, and so I needed to be formal with the people I'm speaking with, and so I didn't want the color of the day to take over the corporate aspect of my business.
Oh, all right. Very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. But then, recently, even the Nigerian police have come out to even affirm to it that a lot of young people are going into a lot of shades, a lot of crimes. EFCC chairman yesterday came out to also affirm that most Yahoo boys are now into ritual. Now, all of this scenario plays out. We see young people want to get rich at the sweep of their finger. But what do you make of the general get rich quick syndromes that we are experiencing right now, even in the country?
Okay, thank you very much. So I think this is where the challenge is. They need to reorientate people. I've been talking about side hustle for a while, and the reason is far-fetched. It's so simple. Everyone has the ability to do more if you have time to think. It's not absence of resources, it's lack of being resourceful. So the government needs to give environments for young people to be able to engage in businesses. And we have, in fact, we are in a better time of life. We have a great opportunity. The opportunity has come with the digital platforms that we have. I've been talking about side hustle, not necessarily because people don't have what to do, but reminding people that with what they are doing, they can actually do more. So I engage the teacher. I say, as a teacher, who told you can't be a tutor? As a banker, who says you can't be a baker? And as a student, who says you can't do more? We have what we call Kik Messenger, K-I-K. It used to be like WhatsApp. It was created by students of University of Waterloo. And as at the time they shut down, they had 300 million users all over the world. And you know the reason for shutting down? Because they wanted to focus on cryptocurrency. If they had decided to stay with Kik, they will still make their money without disturbing anybody. These are businesses you do. You are not running after anybody. You don't have to shout on anybody. Nobody needs to call you. You do it from the comfort of your bedroom. All you need is a phone or a laptop. So a lot of these guys needs to be empowered and be directed on what to do. You know the thing about youth? A youthful person is full of energy, excess energy. They just needed guidance to direct the energy in the right path.
Well, Emmanuel Akane, the government will come out to say they've created enough enabling platform for business to thrive, for young people to venture into the business world. Now, young people, on the other hand, will say that the government is not doing enough. Which side of the divide now forms the balance for young people to delve into business grounds?
Okay, so this is what I want the government to do. You know, you don't measure impact because you have rolled out policy. You measure impact by getting feedback and by going to the grassroots. The policies we are talking about, the businesses that we are talking about, how many people have been able to access it? I'm in business. I know some of the challenges we have with the government policy. I know the struggles we have with some of the government organizations that makes us to make some form of payments, that due payments, but the way they go about it. So sometimes I'm worried because government seems not to be working with reality. If you roll out a program for youth, let there be a follow-up. Put it on air. Let people give their feedback. You will know how many people have been engaged at the local level, how many people are assessing the programs that are being rolled out, and how many people are even aware that there's this offer. There's a lot of young minds who are not even aware. We talk about social media. It's not all the youths that are on social media. I can tell you this confidently because I work with a few. They are not all on social media, and the ones who are there, some even have things they are doing already. So if government is saying we are providing something for youth, we are making business opportunity available, then go back to the youth. Take a survey. How many people have engaged in this? I'm doing a doctorate program. I know what it means to engage in a research, which is one thing we should take advantage of in this country. It will tell you how impactful a policy is. And if a policy has stayed for 1 or 2 years, it needs to be rejigged. Last year is not this year. A lot of things have changed. So if there are programs that have been rolled out and they are not meeting the needs of these youth, they will just look at it and walk away. Some years ago, I was in a state, they gave out laptops to young people, gave out cameras. Do you know what those guys did with after a while? They sold it off. They sold it off.
They were not trained?
They were trained. But the thing is, those who were trained to use cameras don't even have any passion for camera work. They don't even have any idea about it. So they end up selling it to those who are already in the business. So you don't empower somebody who does not have interest in what you're empowering for. You want me to be a tailor now, you bought me a tailoring machine, and I don't even like anything that has to do with tailoring. What will I do with the machine?
All right.
Sell it off.
Emmanuel Akane, some people will say that the origin of greed is side hustle. And you have been on the forefront of advocating for one to have side hustle. How do we marry these two narratives together?
Thank you very much. So if you look at the dictionary word of hustle itself, is a Dutch word, talks about hustling. What it means is ability to do more, having a sense of purpose, having a sense of urgency, doing what other people will naturally not want to do. So when you talk about side hustle, it means even if you are working, you can do more. Like I said before, a banker can be a baker. You don't have to quit your job. A teacher can be a tutor. So I asked a teacher, when you close from school by 4 p.m., what do you do till the 8 a.m. of the next day? So side hustle is, okay, so what can I do more? And you can pick something you can do even from your value chain. One of the opportunities side hustle gives you is that you can resell. You can resell your cap to you.
Emmanuel, before you resell my cap, I'm just being signaled right now by my producer that it's time to go. I want to say thank you so much, Emmanuel, for being a part of the show. We will definitely continue this conversation on that. Subsequently on the desk. We'll continue the conversation, but I'm being signaled right now to go. Viewers, it is time to go.